December 1941, of course, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. And then a few months later, in February, President Roosevelt made the decision that all persons of Japanese ancestry, 70% of them born in the United States, 30% born in Japan. However, all of them within 100 miles of the Pacific coast in California, Oregon, and Washington State had to first go to temporary places and then eventually to these relocation camps. Our family in 1942 shared a horse stall at Santa Anita racetrack, made famous by Seabiscuit. And then when the basically Army barracks were ready in 10 different locations west of the Mississippi River, based on what part of the West Coast one family came from, they were assigned to various places in California, Montana, Arizona, Utah, and so on. We wound up in Rower, Arkansas, which is about 20 miles from the Mississippi River. A very poor part of the state. And as I look back, although the educational system, and I began, my first, second, and third grades while we were in camp, as we called it, and the curriculum was American. There was a lot of American culture that was outside, literally outside of our experiences. I didn't read a daily newspaper, didn't hear the daily news or radio and so on, so I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what the fashions, what the popular culture of the times were and so on. And so in the years that have passed since, I still feel a little lost because I can't recapture what I didn't experience. Mm-hmm. But, people of my generation would say, do you remember such and such and such? Well, no. Mm-hmm. Okay. It took a while for transportation and temporary housing to get arranged again. Mm-hmm. So we didn't leave Arkansas until November of 1945. And then we were taught that one of the striking things I remember my father saying is to try to pass ourselves off as Chinese. And that was done to protect us from discrimination against Japs. Mm-hmm. And my parents went back to being farm laborers. 1948, it was a critical time in my life for several reasons. One, I finally lived in a place that was reasonably normal for a residential area in Southern California. Mm-hmm. It was the first time in my life that we had indoor plumbing. First time in my life that I lived in a house that was actually painted on the outside. But I think because of the emphasis that my parents and other Japanese parents had of their children, the expectations were that, my mother used to say, don't be a dumb farmer like me, like us, okay? And so one thing that a lot of folks, when they talk about immigration today also, is that what they do is they transfer the inability of the immigrant parents, especially those with non-English speaking abilities and those who haven't assimilated into American culture, to assume that their kids are going to be the same. What they don't appreciate is that sometimes, as in the case of my parents, my mother especially, they set themselves up as negative reference persons. Don't be like us. Right. You're here in the United States. You need to do well in school. You need to prepare yourself to get a good job when you get out into the larger society.